Good evening and welcome to the Aquatic Center on the campus of Verona Area High School. Tonight we bring you the girls diving meet, which will feature the home team, Verona Mount Horeb, and we also welcome in the Madison Edgewood team along with the team from Middleton. We look to have a really great competition tonight. This is actually our first competition with I guess you could say live competitors from other schools. So we're really excited to have you along with us tonight. And like I said, we look forward to a really great competition.
For the first ever diving competition, we welcome tonight's participating schools, Verona Grove, Madison Edgewood, Middleton, and host Verona Area Mount Horeb. Our first diver is Carson from Verona Grove. 101C, forward dive, tuck position, 1.2, on deck Kendall. Four, 7, 6 and 1/2, 7.
You can see under the event, that is the dive order. The heat is the total score. Under the lengths, that is the degree of difficulty, and under the record, that is the dive number, round, and the dive score. Under the times, you can see the different judges there.
Forward dive, tight position, 1.3, on deck Hanukkah.
So that was Natalie Carroll from Edgewood High School completing her forward dive in a pike position. This is Verona Mount Horeb's Annika Rufinat. She will complete a forward 1.5 somersaults in a pike position. Very nice dive there. Let's see what those scores come up as. Very well done. 7, a 6.5, and another 7. You can see her score there of 134.85. Here is Annie Nick from Verona Mount Horeb. That was a forward dive in a straight position. And you can see her total score of 123.1. This is Verona's Julia Mulholland. Executing a forward 1.5 somersault in a tuck position. And you can see her scores there, a total of 130.4. This is Middleton's Maya Forcier, or sorry, Edgewood's Maya Forcier. Executing a forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position, and you can see her total score of 131.45. This is Monona Grove's Katie Jo Wesley. Executing the forward 1 somersault in a pike position. Her total score of 127. This is Middleton's Brooklyn Boyd. And her scores totaling a 127.75. Our next diver is Alana Martin from Middleton. As you can see, she's doing an inward dive in a tuck position. And her scores total up to a 123.10. This is Meg Weiler from Middleton, doing an inward dive in a pike position. And her scores coming up 128.50. Lexi Quartaro from Middleton. This forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position gives her a degree of difficulty of 1.7. Nicely done there. Her score, a 129.75. This is Middleton's Claire Jargumilli, executing a forward 1.5 somersault in a tuck position. And her total score, 130.40. Dana Huguet from Middleton, a forward dive in a tuck position.
Forward dive, tuck position, 1.2.
And Dana's score is coming up. 121.60. Next up is Monona Grove's Catherine Roberts. That was a forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position. Her score, 131.45. Here's Layla Howe from Monona Grove. Her dive, a forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position. Her total, 122.95. And to complete our first round, Lauren Meyer from Verona Mount Horeb, a forward somersault in a tuck position. And her total score, 125.90. Okay, so here's Carson Nelson again from Monona Grove for her second dive. And her total score comes up as, now that is the, wow, 237.4. Very nice dive. This is maybe Kendall from Monona Grove.
102B, forward 1 somersault, pike position. Kendall doing 103E, forward 1.5 somersault, pike position 1.7.
So a little change in the dive here. So that is a forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position. So her scores.
0.5.
So her total cumulative score of 222.1. So there we go. The second judge was 5.5, so her total is 230.60. So this is Edgewood's Natalie Carroll. Her score is 6.5 all around. Her cumulative total after 2 rounds of 233.15. This is Verona's Annika Rufenacht, executing a forward 2 somersault tuck position, so much greater degree of difficulty. And lands it pretty well there. Very little splash. Her cumulative score there, 240.70. This is Annie Nick from Verona. A forward one somersault in a tuck position, 1.4 on the degree of difficulty. Her score is a 4.5, a cumulative total of 218.9. So Julia Mulholland from Verona. A much greater degree of difficulty in that dive. So 6.5s all the way across gives her a total of 244.85. This is Maya Forcier from Edgewood. Very well executed dive there. That'll get her scores of 6, 6, and 5.5 for a total of 233.25. Here's Katie Jo Wesley from Monona Grove. A forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position. And executes that dive well. Her cumulative total after 2 rounds, 229.75. Here's Brooklyn Boyd from Middleton. You can see in this second round some of the degrees of difficulty are getting much higher than that first round. It's good to get a first dive in, get your confidence up. And Brooklyn scores. I'm guessing that's a 5.5 for number 2. That seemed to be what happened the last time. So her cumulative total, though, of 219. Oh, there we go. Okay, so the cumulative total of 227.55. This is Alana Martin from Middleton. So back dive in a straight position. Her scores. 2 5s and a 6 gives her a total of 227.2. This is Middleton's Meg Weiler. Also executing a back dive in a straight position. And her scores coming up. All 5s gives her a cumulative total of 225.5. This is Lexi Quartaro from Middleton. 2.2 on the degree of difficulty of this dive. And her scores coming up. 3.5, 2 4s give her a total of 225.3. Here's Claire Jargumilli, also with the same dive, a forward 2 somersaults in a tuck. And her scores all 6.5 across the board, total of 242.9. Here's Dana Huguet from Middleton. Her degree of difficulty, 1.6, as you can see on the board there. Very nicely done. And her scores, 6, 6, and 6.5. Total of 229.6. Here's Monona Grove's Catherine Roberts. And her scores: a 6, a 5.5, and a 5.5 give her a total of 232.3. This is Layla Howe from Monona Grove, executing a reverse dive in a tuck position. And her scores: 5, 4.5, and 5.5 give her a total of 224. And our last diver to complete round 2 is Lauren Meyer from Verona Area High School. And her scores to end the second round give her a total of 225.60. So we'll be back right after this. Here's Carson Nelson from Monona Grove. Her score, very nicely done with a degree of difficulty of 1.5. You can see those scores a little bit higher. Her total of 333. It's maybe Kendall of Monona Grove. Her scores: 5, 5.5, and 6 give her a total of 324.75. Up next is Natalie Carroll from Edgewood, also doing an inward dive in a pike. Her scores: 6.5, 6.5, and 6 give her a total of 328.5. Here's Annika Rufinach from Verona, also executing an inward dive in a pike position. Her scores: 6.5 and 7 give her a total of 330. Here's Annie Nick from Verona Mount Horeb. A back dive in a straight position. And her scores: 5, 4.5, and 5.5 give her a total of 325.5. Here's Julia Mulholland from Verona. And her scores: 6.5 all around, so her total is 331.2. Here's Maya Forcier from Edgewood. This is her inward dive in a pike position. And her scores: 5.5 and 6, a total of 325.5. Here's Monona Grove's Katie Jo Wesley, a back dive in a straight position. And her scores: 5, a 6, and a 5.5 gives her a total of 328.05. Here's Middleton's Brooklyn Boyd, a forward 1.5 somersault in a tuck position. And her scores are 5, 5, and 4.5. So 323.2 for her total. Here's Alana Martin from Middleton, a forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position. So I think she's changing this to a tuck position from a pike position. I think the judges are clarifying that. And there you can see that tuck position as she executed that dive. Her scores 5, 6, and 5.5, a total of 326.4. Here's Meg Weiler from Middleton, a back one somersault in a straight position. And her scores coming up. 6, 5.5, and 6 give her a total of 329.75. Here's Middleton's Lexi Quattaro. That 1.9 degree difficult of dive gives her 5.5s all the way across for a total of 331.35. This is Claire Jargumilli from Middleton. She will also execute the forward somersault with a twist. Her scores coming up. All right, this is Dana Huguet from Middleton. This is a forward 1.5 somersaults with a twist. Her scores 5, 4.5, and 5.5 for a total of 315. So we've got just a brief break in the action here, clarifying a dive, I think. So as we work our way through the rounds here, this is round 3 of 11 for some divers and 6 for others. You will see as we go through the rounds, some of these dives will get much more difficult. I think a lot of times, you know, when kids plan out their dives, they like to get a couple dives in to, you know, build their confidence a little bit before you go to try to tackle some of those more difficult dives. So this is Monona Grove's Catherine Roberts, with a back one somersault in a straight position. And her scores 5.5, 6.5, and 6.5 give her a total of 331.45. Layla Howe from Monona Grove with a reverse somersault in a tuck position. And her scores are 5.5, 5, and 5 for a total of 324.8. And to wrap up our third round, this is Lauren Meyer from Verona Mount Horeb. She'll do a back dive in a straight position. And her scores coming up. 6s all around. A total of 330.6. So here comes our fourth round with Carson Nelson from Monona Grove. An inward somersault in a tuck position. Her scores coming up. 6.5, 6.5, and a 6 for a cumulative total of 430.4. Monona Grove's Maybe Kendall executing the same dive, an inward somersault and a tuck. And her scores 5, 4.5, and 4.5 for a total of 422.4. Here's Natalie Carroll from Edgewood, also executing the inward one somersault with a tuck. And her scores 6, 5.5, and 5.5 for a total of 427.2. Here's Anna Garufanaut from Verona Mount Horeb, also executing that same dive of the inward somersault in a tuck position. And her scores 6.5 all the way around, 431.2. Here's Verona area Mount Horeb's Annie Nick, a backward somersault in a tuck position. That's a 1.5 degree of difficulty. Her scores 5, 5, and 5.5. Total of 423.25. Here's Verona Mount Horeb's Julia Milholland. Her back somersault in a straight position gives her 6, 6.5, and 6 for a total of 431.45. Here's Edgewood's Maya Forcier, an inward somersault and a tuck. And you'll see much higher scores there. Very nicely done by Maya. Here's Monona Grove's Katie Jo Wesley. Her dive is a back one somersault in a straight position. And her scores 5, 4.5, and 5 for a total of 424.65. Here's Middleton's Brooklyn Boyd with an inward dive in a tuck position. And her scores coming up 5, 6, and 5, so a total of 422.4. Here's Middleton's Alana Martin, a forward somersault with a twist. A little higher degree of difficulty here, a 1.9. And you can see her scores 5, 5.5, and 5. So 429.45. Middleton's Meg Weiler. This is our highest degree of difficulty dive yet this evening, a 2.3. And that 2.3 degree of difficulty. Her scores 5.5, 4.5. Her total of 426.45. Lexi Quartaro also with a degree of difficulty of 2.3. This forward somersault with 2 twists. And her scores coming up here. And 4.5, 5, and 3.5. A total of 429.90. There might be a bit of discussion regarding the scores. I know that if you go to execute your dive and if you stop, there might be a slight deduction in your scores there. Obviously a very difficult dive. So this is Claire Jargumilli from Middleton. This is a reverse dive in a tuck, or in a straight position it looked to be. She gets 5, 5, and a 6 for a total of 425.6. This is Middleton's Dana Huguet, a reverse dive in a pike position. And her scores. 6, 5.5, and 6 give her a total of 429.75. This is Catherine Roberts from Monona Grove. An inward dive in a tuck position. And her scores, 6.5 all around. 427.3. This is Layla Howe from Monona Grove. Her inward dive in the pike position. And her scores coming up. 6, a 4.5, and a 5. A total of 423.25. And wrapping up round 4 is Lauren Meyer from Verona Mount Horeb. This is a back dive with 1 somersault in a pike position. And her scores coming up are 5, 6, and 5, a total of 425.6. So that concludes our 4th round, so we'll be back right after this. We are heading to round 5 once again with Monona Grove's Carson Nelson. This degree of difficulty of 1.9, a forward somersault with a twist. And her scores of 6, 7, and 6, a total of 536.1. Maybe Kendall from Monona Grove also executing that same dive of a forward somersault with a twist. And her scores gives her a total of 523.75. Here's Edgewood's Natalie Carroll, also with a forward somersault with a twist. And her scores, 5.5, 6, and 5.5, give her a 532.3. Here's Verona Mount Horeb's Annika Rufinacht. This is a pretty difficult dive, degree of 2.3. Take a look. That was a back somersault with 1.5 twists. Her scores of 6.5, 6.5, and 6 put her at 543.7. This is Annie Nick from Verona Mount Horeb. This inward dive in a tuck position. And that dive, her scores 5.5, 5.5, and 5. Give her a total of 522.4. Next up will be Julia Mulholland from Verona Mount Horeb. And her dive, we've got a little break in the action here, but her dive is a forward somersault in a pike position. That degree of difficulty being 1.5. And her scores 7, 7.5, and 7 give her a total of 532.25. This is Edgewood's Maya Forcier. A 1.9 degree of difficulty, that forward somersault with a twist. And her scores 5.5, 6.5, and 6 give us a total of 534.2. Here's Katie Jo Wesley from Monona Grove, executing a back somersault with a twist. That same degree of difficulty of 1.9. And her scores 5, 4, and 4.5, a total of 525.65. This is Brooklyn Boyd from Middleton, a back one somersault in a straight position. And her scores 6, 6.5, and 5.5 for a total of 530.6. Here's Middleton's Alana Martin, a forward 1.5 somersault in a tuck position, 1.6 degree of difficulty. So as you can see here, the aquatic center at the brand new Verona Area High School has a beautiful diving well with 2 of the 1 meter boards there. And her scores 5.5, 5.5, and 5 give her a total of 524. So Meg Weiler is tackling a back one somersault with a 2.5 twist in a free position, 2.7, the highest degree of difficulty we've had thus far. And her awards here 5, 5.5, and 5 give her a total of 541.85. Here's Middleton's Lexi Quartaro, a reverse one somersault in a tuck position, degree of difficulty of 1.6. And her scores 6, 5.5, and 5.5, a total of 527.2. Here's Claire Jargumilli from Middleton, a reverse 1.5 somersault in a tuck position, a 2.1 degree of difficulty. players' scores. 4.5, 5, and 5, a total of 530.45. Here's Dana Huguet from Middleton. A back dive in a straight position. Degree of difficulty of 1.7. And that was very nicely done. 6.5, 7, and 6.5, a total of 534. Monona Grove's Catherine Roberts, a reverse one somersault in a tuck position. And her scores 6, 5.5, and 6 give her a total of 528. Here's Layla Howe from Monona Grove with a back dive in a straight position. And her scores coming up are 5.5, 5, and 5.5, a total of 527.2. And wrapping up our fifth round is Verona Mount Horeb's Lauren Meyer. A forward somersault with a half twist. 1.7 degree of difficulty. And her scores. 4.5, 3, and 4 give her a total of 519.55. So here's our sixth round of diving. This will be the last round for some of our divers this evening. Carson Nelson from Monona Grove leads us off with a back dive in a straight position. And her scores. 6, 5.5, and 6.5 give her a total of 630.6. Here's Maybe Kendall, or Kendall Maybe. I think her name may have gotten reversed. Her back dive in a tuck position gives her a total of 627 points. Here's Edgewood's Natalie Carroll, a back dive in a straight position. And her scores. 7s all across the board. You can tell from the crowd reaction that was a very nice dive. Verona Mount Horeb's Annika Rufinach is up next with also a back dive in a straight position. And her scores 5, 5.5, and 4.5 for a total of 625.5. This will be Annie Nick's final dive this evening. A forward one somersault with a half twist in a free position. Her degree of difficulty of 1.7. And her scores. 5s all the way across the board, 625.5. Here's Yulia Mulholland, an inward dive in a pike position. Her scores, 6 all the way across, a total of 627. There's Maya Forcier from Edgewood. This will be her final dive of the evening. A back somersault in a straight position. And her scores. 5.5, 5, and 6 give her a total of 628.05. Here's Katie Jo Wesley's final dive from Monona Grove. An inward dive in a pike position. And her scores: 6, 6.5, and 5.5 for a total of 627. This is Brooklyn Boyd's final dive of the evening, a back somersault with a half twist. And Brooklyn scores 2, 2.5, and 3 give her a total of 612.75. This is Alana Martin's final dive of the evening from Middleton, a back one somersault in a tuck position. A degree of difficulty of 1.5. And her scores: 5, 5, and 4 give her a total of 621. So here's Meg Weiler, her 6th round dive, a forward 1.5 somersault in a pike position. And that looks to score pretty well. 6, 6.5, and 6.5 for a total of 632.3. Here's Middleton's Lexi Quartaro. Her dive is a back dive in a straight position. And her scores coming up shortly: a 5, 5.5, and 4.5 for a total of 625.5. Here's Claire Jargumilli from Middleton. She will execute a back dive in a straight position. And her scores: 6, 6, and 5.5 for a total of 626.25. Here's Dana Huget from Middleton. A back one somersault in a straight position with a degree of difficulty of 1.7. And her scores: 6, 6, and 5.5 for a total of 629.75. Here's Monona Grove's Catherine Roberts to execute her final dive of the evening. It's a forward dive in a tuck position. And her scores: 5.5, 6.5, and 6.5. 622.2 is her total. Here's Layla Howe from Monona Grove executing her final dive of this evening, a back somersault in a straight position. Her scores: 5, 4, and 5 give her a total of 623.8. So here is our final diver of the 6th round, Lauren Meyer from Verona Mount Horeb. This is her final dive this evening, an inward dive in a tuck position. scores 5.5, 6, and 5.5 give her a total of 623.8. So we'll be back right after this. So our 7th round, we have a few divers which will complete, or who will complete, all 11 dives. So Carson Nelson from Monona Grove with a back 1 somersault in a straight position. And her scores 6, 5.5, and 5.5 give her a total of 728.9. Here's Kendall Mabey from Monona Grove, executing also a back 1 somersault in a straight position. And her scores coming up 6, 5, and 5 give her a total of 727.2. Edgewood's Natalie Carroll with a back somersault in a straight position. And her scores 6, 5.5, and 6, a total of 729.75. Here's Annika Rupanak from Verona Mount Horeb. Seems to be the dive of the 7th round, the back 1 somersault in a straight position. And her scores coming up 6.5, 7, and 7 give her a total of 734.85. Next up, we have Meg Weiler from Middleton. She's executing a forward 2 somersault in a tuck position, that degree of difficulty a little higher of 2.2. And Meg scores. I think we got a scoring issue there. I think we're going to post those awards again. There we go. 5.5, 5, and 5, a total of 734.1. Lexi Cortaro, a back 1 somersault in a straight position. And Lexi scored 6, 6.5, and 6 for a total of 731.45. Here's Claire Jargumilli from Middleton, executing a back 1 somersault with a 1.5 twist in the free position, a 2.3 degree of difficulty. You can tell some of those dives are a little more difficult to execute. Her scores of 2.5, 5, and 4.5 give her a total of 727.6. And our last diver in this 7th round, Dana Huguet from Middleton. A back 1.5 somersault, half twist in the free position, 2.1 degree of difficulty. This will wrap up our 7th round. Her scores for this dive, 4.5, 5, and 5, a total of 730.45. So our 8th round now, as we basically have 8 divers that remain that will complete all 11 dives. Here's Monona Grove's Carson Nelson, a reverse dive in a tuck position. That was very nicely executed. Her scores 7, 6.5, and 7, a total of 832.8. Kendall Mabey, also from Monona Grove, executing that reverse dive in a tuck position. Her scores of 5, 5.5, and 6, a total of 826.4. Here's Edgewood's Natalie Carroll, also executing this reverse dive in a tuck position. And you can see her scores 6, 5.5, and 5.5, a total of 827.2. Here's Annika Rufanak with also that same reverse dive in a tuck position. I think she may have done the wrong dive there. Unfortunately, not being able to be scored for that. This is Middleton's Meg Weiler, a reverse dive in a pike position. And her scores coming up 6, 6.5, and 6, a total of 831.45. Here's Middleton's Lexi Quartaro. She will execute an inward dive in a pike position. And her scores coming up 5.5, 5, 4.5, and 4, a total of 821. Here's Claire Jargumilli from Middleton, an inward dive in a tuck position. And her scores 6.5s all the way across. 827.3 for her total score. Here's Dana Huguet from Middleton, executing also that inward dive in the tuck position. This will conclude our 8th round of dives. And her scores 5.5, 7, and 6, a total of 825.9. At this time, we are going to have a short break in the action. We will have 3 more rounds of diving coming up very shortly, so stay tuned. And we are back at the Aquatic Center at the campus of Verona Area High School here for round 9. This is Monona Grove's Carson Nelson. Her reverse somersault in a tuck position gives her scores of 6, 6.5, and 6.5 for a total of 930.4. Kendall Mabey is our next diver from Monona Grove, also executing that reverse somersault in a tuck position. Her scores 6, 5.5, and 5.5 for a total of 927.2. Natalie Carroll from Edgewood is next with a similar dive of a reverse 1 somersault in a tuck. And her scores 6s all across the board, total of 928.8. Here's Annika Rufanak from Verona Mount Horeb, also a reverse 1 somersault with a tuck. Her scores 5.5, 6, and 5.5, a total of 927.2. Here is Middleton's Meg Weiler, an inward one somersault in a tuck. And her scores. Repost those for a sec here. We'll re-enter those 5.5, 6, and 5.5, a total of 927.2. Here's Middleton's Lexi Quattaro, a back somersault with 1.5 twists. This is a 2.3 degree of difficulty. And her scores. A 5.5 all the way across, a total of 937.95. Here's Middleton's Claire Jargumilli. This is a 2.2 degree of difficulty dive, a forward 1.5 somersault with a twist in the free position. Her scores 4.5, 5.5, and 5, a total of 933. Here's Dana Huguet rounding out the 9th round, a 2.2 degree of difficulty dive, an inward 1.5 somersault in the tuck position. Her scores 5s all the way across, a total of 933. Here's round 10. Monona Grove's Carson Nelson, a forward 2 somersault in a tuck position. That's a 2.2 degree of difficulty. And her scores. There we go. 3.5, 3, and 4, a total of 1023.1. Here's Kendall Mabey from Monona Grove. A forward somersault with a half twist. Degree of difficulty of 1.7. So her score is going to give her a 25.5. Natalie Carroll from Edgewood is next with a forward 2 somersaults in a tuck position. Her scores, a 5, a 4.5, and a 5 for a total of 31.9. Here's our Annika Rupinak from Verona Mount Horeb. A forward somersault with a twist in the free position. So that 1.9 degree of difficulty dive gives her scores of 6.5 all the way across, a total of 37.05. Here's Julia Milholland. Oh, I take that back. This is Meg Weiler. Her dive, a forward somersault with a twist. A degree of difficulty of 1.9 gives her a total of, I believe they put that up real quickly. It looked to be a total of 50. There we go. 4.5, 5, and 5, a total of 27.55. Lexi Quattaro from Middleton, executing a reverse dive in a pike position 1.7 degree of difficulty. And her scores, 5s all the way across, 25.5 for her total score. Middleton's Claire Jargamilli, a back 1.5 somersault in the tuck position. Difficulty of 2.0. And Claire scores 5.5, 6, and 6, a total of 35. Middleton's Dana Huget to wrap up round number 10. A back 1 somersault with a half twist. In the free position, a degree of difficulty of 1.7. And Dana scores 6, 6.5, and 5, a total of 29.75. So our final round, we have our 8 divers, led off by Carson Nelson from Monona Grove. Her last dive here is a back 1 somersault with a half twist in the free position. And her score is upcoming, 6, 5, and 5, a total of 27.2. Here's Kendall Mabey from Monona Grove with a forward dive in the tuck position. And her scores, 7, 6.5, and 6, a total of 23.4. Here's Edgewood's Natalie Carroll. Her final dive is a back somersault with a half twist in the free position. That degree of difficulty of 1.7. Her awards are 5.5, 5.5, and 5 for a total of 27.2. Annika Rufinach from Verona Mount Horeb. A back somersault with 2.5 twists in the free position. This is a 2.7 degree of difficulty dive. We'll see what scores that gets. Annika, a 6, 6.5, and a 6. With that degree of difficulty, give her some pretty high marks. Here we have Middleton's Meg Weiler, a reverse dive in a tuck position, degree of difficulty of 1.6. And Meg scores 5.5, 5, and 5, a total of 24.8. Here's Lexi Quattaro's final dive. It's an inward 1 somersault in a tuck position. Degree of difficulty also of 1.6. And Lexi scores 5.5, 5.5, and a 5, a total of 25.60. Here's Claire Jargamilli's final dive, an inward 1 somersault with a tuck position. 1.6 also the degree of difficulty. players' scores of 6.5, 6, and 6.5, a total of 30.40. And our final competitor this evening, Middleton's Dana Huguet, also a reverse somersault in a tuck position. And Dana's scores 6, 6.5, and 5.5 for a total of 28 points. And as Coach Bill Werger just announced, this concludes our first ever Aquatic Center Dive Invitational.